Welcome to the video. My name is Reed Sassenberg and I'm the founder of Married Ambition. And today's video is on how I help men prevent divorce, part 4, letting go of control. So today we're talking about control, one of the biggest hidden drivers of emotional pressure during a marriage crisis. So if you're on the edge of divorce, she said she wants a separation, she said that I'm done. You have to understand that if you try and control her, you're going to do a lot more damage. Okay, so most men trying to save their marriage are operating from fear. That's where all your decisions are coming from. That's where all your actions are stemming from. So fear of losing their wives, fear of uncertainty, fear of abandonment, fear of failure, fear of losing their identity, fear of losing their family, being found out to be incompetent. These are all the things that are driving your urgency to control her decisions, control her actions, control her behavior. But in responding from that position, you're going to push her further away and actually make that decision more likely. When you allow your fear to take over your actions, negative outcomes always occur. Because men try to control the outcome, and this is guaranteed to fail. They try to control conversations. They try to control her timeline of what she's going to do when. You're trying to control her emotions. You're trying to control her decisions. You're trying to seek reassurance about things. This is a huge mistake. So before you start acting on, your emotions, ask yourself, is this going to come across as controlling? Because you must give her complete agency. This is phase 0 and phase 1. You must give her complete agency in my program. You have to allow her the freedom, because anything other than agency will speed up the divorce process. You need to focus on changing the environment and her wanting to be a part of that environment. The harder you try and emotionally control the relationship, the more emotionally trapped your wife will start feeling. And trapped people create distance to feel safer. So why does this matter? Okay, reconciliation cannot grow inside emotional pressure. So you cannot save your marriage if she's feeling pressured about it. Healthy connection always requires emotional freedom. Love is a decision, it's never forced. This is what we call a falling outcome. It's something that takes place by the environment that's created by you. It's not something that you can force, okay? You must give her complete agency to make that decision on her own. So all control measures are going to be interpreted in a very negative way early on in the reconciliation process. You have to understand that. So the problem is that many men become obsessed with fixing the relationship quickly because uncertainty feels unbearable. That urgency creates pressure, and that pressure destroys emotional safety and further gives her evidence that she's making the right decision. Your wife needs space, she needs distance, she needs agency to emotionally process the relationship without constantly feeling emotionally managed. Again, further destruction of emotional safety. Masculine leadership is not controlling outcomes. It's about being good with outcomes and following up a specific process to achieve the outcome you want. This is what we call outcome independence. Where you want something, what's the process to getting that thing? Instead of just focusing on that thing and trying to control the uncontrollable, we start focusing on the controllable, which is you. Your emotions, your reactions, your responses, your independence, your mission, your parenting, your fatherhood, who you are as a man. We've got to focus on those things because that's what changes everything. That's what changes the situation. And the key here is to remain grounded, even when the outcome remains uncertain, even when she pulls away further, even when she comes close. Because when she comes close, you stop doing the work, you stop really fixing the problems because she's back now, everything's fine. Until you make the catch-22 even worse. Okay? So you need to remain grounded even when the outcomes remain uncertain. This is the foundation to rebuilding safety within the relationship. She's looking for this emotional leadership. If you can exhibit this through the most difficult part of your life, it's going to change her perception of you. That I guarantee, if you can be consistent with it. So how do we make her feel that emotional safety? We need to stop being controlling in any way. We need to take a step back. We need to start identifying where we are being controlling. That's going to force her to move away from you faster and speed up the process of divorce. What do we need to focus on? Stop forcing timelines. Stop trying to control or force emotional conversations about the relationship and her feelings. Stop demanding clarity constantly. Stop trying to emotionally manage your wife's decisions. Stop believing that more pressure creates more progress. When you're controlling like that, all you're doing is you're communicating to her, I cannot emotionally cope with this unless this gets resolved quickly. This creates emotional suffocation. This will be the death of the relationship if you're not careful. When she says, I'm done, I want a divorce, it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to fix this exact issue, control. Trying to control things and people that you have no business controlling or trying to control. So see the gut punch. They talk about it on another video, the gut punch. The moment when she says, I'm done. See that as the opportunity here to make the changes required to save the relationship, not I'm going to start doing all these different measures to try and get this outcome I want. What's the process I need to follow? That's what you focus on. That's the process. So the relationship to her will feel emotionally heavy instead of emotionally safe if you keep continuing to use these control measures, forcing timelines, forcing emotional conversations, forcing clarity, manipulating your wife's emotions, pressuring her to do certain things. You're doing further damage and further giving her evidence of her decision to leave the relationship. So how do we implement this? We know what we need to stop doing. How do we actually implement this? Our focus needs to turn on to completely ourselves instead of controlling outcomes. You need to control your actions. You need to control your behavior. You need to control your routines. You need to control your discipline. You need to control your healing. You need to control your leadership. And if you don't have any of those things, this is where you do the work and build them. You stop reacting and start responding. You start changing your behavior because the way you think is differently. You start introducing routine, which builds your discipline. You start focusing on structure, which creates confidence in yourself that you can continually show up in a certain way. You start identifying your bucket of rocks, things that you need to fix, things that you need to work through, the insecurities you have, and the patterns of behavior that have stemmed from those insecurities. And then your leadership. How do I see myself in my relationship? How do I lead myself? How do I lead my family? How do I do these things? And you start implementing those things. They're the things you can control. Let go of immediate certainty. If you don't do that, you're going to come across as controlling, needy, desperate, urgent, which confirms her decision to leave you. So learn how to tolerate uncertainty without emotionally collapsing. Every time you feel the urge to force progress, remind yourself, pressure creates resistance. Pressure creates resistance. Control creates a push for people to remove themselves from your presence if you're trying to control them. If you feel that urge, you need to remind yourself to shut the fuck up here. Especially early on. Okay, so calm, grounded energy creates the safety required to save the relationship long term. The less emotionally controlling you become, the more emotionally safe the relationship starts feeling to her. So here's the key points and the recap to this video. Okay, fear drives many controlling behaviors during a marriage crisis. This is why you need to do the work on yourself and be accepting of outcomes, and then shift to outcome independence, detaching from outcomes and following a process. Trying to control these outcomes, things you can't control, factors that you can't control that lead to an outcome. If you're trying to control those factors, if you're trying to have controlling conversations with her, controlling her behavior, controlling how she speaks, controlling her mood, all those things, controlling her emotions, this creates pressure for her and confirms her decision to leave. The more controlled your wife feels, the more distance this creates. So reconciliation requires emotional freedom, not pressure. Masculine leadership, being a man, is staying grounded despite uncertainty of outcome. Stop forcing clarity, progress, or emotional conversations. Focus on controlling yourself, not the relationship outcome. Your one and only focus is yourself, because in controlling yourself, you create a different environment. The environment is something that you share with your wife. You create the environment, she steps in. You don't control her. You control the environment by your decisions and the way you respond and react to the environment yourself. Now, calm, grounded energy creates that emotional safety that's needed in the environment. Are you building safety, or are you building more pressure? That's the question you have to ask early on, constantly. Many men try and control the relationship during a marriage crisis because uncertainty, that feeling of not knowing what the future holds, is unbearable. Controlling behaviors create emotional pressure to her and make the relationship feel emotionally unsafe. Healthy reconciliation requires emotional freedom. Give her agency. You have to be patient, and you focus on your grounded leadership under uncertainty. You can't force progress. You need to shift the focus from focusing on her and where things are at with her to what do I need to focus on. You need to regulate yourself. You need to tolerate uncertainty. And you need to create a calm, safe, emotional environment through your behavior. The more you try to control the relationship, the less emotionally safe it feels for her. Pressure creates resistance from her. You must understand this principle. The harder you chase, the more you try and control, the more you pressure, the more you manipulate, the more you make her feel a certain way about what she's doing, the more resistance it creates. So what's the opposite? Give her agency. Let her make her own decisions. You just focus on your lane, your side of the street, and cleaning that up. And you show change through your behavior. So most men wait until it's too late to make change. If your marriage is on the edge of divorce and you want the exact steps to save your relationship, book a one-on-one call with me in the link below this video.